I ask for your help, and then you just sit there. So I don't know.
I'm I'm not good at like putting that
Right.
stuff on paper. I do with every episode essentially what Brandon's doing with this. Like I candid. Everything
Cool.
is on the spot.
Scooting closer. You guys both
Do you
pretty
want to
good.
move that? The glare's on my glasses. Do you want to move
He
the?
has the glare on his glasses too. Like the video part, this is all Jeff's thing. Mine is more of the audio. So I only care about the audio, how it sounds.
Mm.
So he has a glare on his. You have a glare on yours. It's all good.
I would glare on mine
Um,
every week. I mean, I can take them off.
no, no, keep them on. It's you. Okay. So start with the opening. Hey, bro, what's up? I'm Vin,
And I'm Jeff.
and welcome to our podcast. This week is about dating slash romantic partners part one with our guest Brandon. Brandon is a old friend of mine from high school as well. Uh, Grew up together in high school and kind of similar. We had similar friends, but we weren't part of the same friend group. So once in a while, we'll hang out and yada yada. And then during like college and adult life, we kind of distanced apart until pretty recently. Him and Cullen started hanging out more, and we started doing guys' night on Friday nights. So it's been really cool. So we kind of got back kind of got close together again as friends, and now he's here on the show. So, Brandon, if you want to give yourself a short introduction.
Yeah, I'm Brandon, and yeah, I know Vin for quite a while, and yeah, I'm really excited to have this talk with you guys. I mean, it's something that I've grew up all my life doing, and it's ups and downs, and
Playboy player.
whatever you say. So,
That's all it sounds like to me. Like, I've been doing this all my life, and all the girls just come to me.
you know,
You're not denying it. That's the problem.
but it's not that easy. That's the
Sure,
thing. It is very time consuming
sure.
and difficult. Um, but yeah, I've always I told my wife that I would be doing this. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're married, it's fine, especially when you find the right person. But
Yeah,
it gets very interesting when you get to talk about something that it's your past
yeah.
and yeah. So especially uh, when it seems like it's hard to talk about being open about it, but
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a lot of people out there that sometimes do need to hear this
Right.
or would like to hear it or you know uh but yeah.
I think it helps you too with like some people they can't escape their past or like some of their past is still weighing on them, but people to like open up about it and kind of face it helps too.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the past in this topic has definitely you know come to you know my past like every relationship,
Yeah.
and it's come to bite me in the butt, and it's also yeah, I've learned a lot from it. So
I think that was the most important thing I was going to say was if you learn from it, I think you're good, right? That can end up
You
like
carry that into future relationships, and okay, this was a bad idea. This decision didn't work or whatever, and grow off of it.
right.
correct.
So, one disclaimer I wanted to bring up about the relationship topics and the future with marriage topics is right now we're gonna go into endeavor of straight relationships, and in the future we would go into gay relationships. Um, so, anyways, Brandon, if you want to start with the quote of the week.
Yeah, it's by William Shakespeare. And love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind.
Nice.
I really like this quote because I feel like um, constantly when you're looking for a partner, and you know, when you're me as a guy, and I'm looking for a woman. Um, well, let me take it back. Back when I grew up watching those those type of shows that, there's a damsel in distress and there's a hero that tends to, save them, and at the end of the show, the movie, uh, they're kissing, and it's a happily ever after. And I grew up as an only child, so typically I had nobody to play with, and I
Mm.
would just go outside and I would just mimic, those those uh those heroes, those you know try to save the damsel in distress that I'm, and it's pretty hilarious because I would catch myself, pretending to kiss an invisible woman on the backyard. Um, but um, definitely growing up, I it was very tough because I feel like I had from such a young age, probably to like fifth or sixth grade, I felt like I had peaked. I felt like everyone started going through adolescence, and when you're going through puberty, your friends, everybody, they grow, and they get taller. I stayed short,
At,
so
at 10 years old, you felt like you peaked. Like you had the thought, like I
like I
peaked.
felt like my buddies and I were definitely like the same, when it came to like flirting with the same little like same girls in class and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I was like, you know what, like I never really got their attention because at that point it seemed like everybody was either becoming talented in a sport, they were getting taller, um you know to me it felt like, if you had brains, or your brains and bronze, that attracted women and girls. So I remember back in middle school, man, I was just super obsessed with this girl. And I mean, I spent all sixth grade, trying to get with her, and not a flinch. She was with everybody else but me, so that brought my self-esteem down so much. um but one day, we're at the water park. I'm at the water park, and I'm with myself, and I'm with my two friends, and both very attractive girls. And uh, we're talking about first kisses. To me, it didn't bother me because I didn't think it was going to happen until way down the line. So it was comfortable for me to talk about it. Well, what do you know? They ended up they wanted to kiss me, and one wouldn't kiss me without the other. And um, after bickering back and forth, I ended up kissing one of them, and then 5 minutes later, the other one was like, "Okay, it's my turn." And this was mind-boggling to me because, to me, I had been rejected for a whole year by this girl, and now I have two really pretty girls that want to engage with me.
Mhm.
So to me, it was my first time noticing something, because after that day, I had kissed them both. Right, same, within the same 10 minutes. We're in middle school, but day, the next week, that girl that I had been chasing for so long finally recognized me, and she wanted to date me.
Yeah.
So
You had an air of confidence around you.
it's it's not, and that's what it was. And that's what I thought. I had that confidence because I'm like, you know what? Hey, look at me. I just got kissed by two girls, right? Two really pretty girls. But why did it take a kiss from another girl to grab that attention, to grab that attraction, to finally have that yes? And I think from there on, really began my whole journey of who, how can I find who and how can I find the right girl for me?
Right, and that kind of goes with the quote, right? Of like it's a it's I don't want to say it's like a mind game, but it's like, oh, why, like, were they not attracted to me with their eyes in the first place? But then once you had this game of like, oh, I already kissed this other girl, their mind started thinking like, oh, maybe there is something about Brandon, right? So I think that's how like the quote really works really well. Of like, it's not just eyes. It's a lot with the mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said earlier. You said I was a ladies' man and all this stuff, and to me, in my eyes, I didn't see that. I didn't honestly. I've had probably, uh, let's see, four real relationships, like boyfriend girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in between, I did, you know, uh, I guess hook up with girls
Mm-hmm.
and talk to them, message them. But to me, it was more. It started to become like a game, like a mind game.
Right? It wasn't love, right?
No, at the same time, I was looking for that damsel in distress because um, I when I was with my girlfriends, I had I enjoyed the loyalty. I enjoyed all of that. But for me, I felt like I kept pushing boundaries and trying to test limits of, like what's the next like I got you to be my boy. I got you to talk to me. I got you to go out with me. Now I got you to be my girlfriend, you know. Um and so on and so forth, from the kissing to, um to touching to having sex and all that stuff. And I started seeing what's the next level. And to me, I started learning so much. And you know those boundaries that I kept pushing, ultimately ended up with me, our relationships ending
Mm.
many times.
Right.
Yeah. So you know I we would sneak in each other's house. It's like it was like my very first girlfriend. We were caught sending each other's naked pictures to each other. Our parents found out, right? So that ended
That's awkward.
it. Yeah, tell me about it. It sucked, but to me, I mean, as we know now, I mean, it wasn't even love. It's whatever.
Mm.
It's lust. And so my next girlfriend was in sophomore year, and she, it grew to be. It was very modest at first, and then again we pushed those boundaries, and we were sneaking into each other's houses, and what do you know, we got caught again, and so that drifted apart. Um, After that, I began to go to. That was my senior year in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So did it change for you? Like, so it seemed like your initial experiences were very much with the eyes, right? Love looks not with the eyes. Like it seemed very like a physical, like, oh, these girls are attractive. I want to do this and that. And then by adulthood, how did it change for you? Like, how did that quote? How does the quote like with the mind? Love looks with the mind. Like, how did that stick out to you?
So, um, yeah, uh, that that definitely was with my wife.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It went many years later. But after high school, I started learning more like, okay, there's I have a lot to compete with, and it's a lot of trial and error. And like I told you guys, I mean, like I said earlier, is I stayed short. You know, I wasn't in any. I was in. I didn't have a good talent. Like really, I, I did soccer and I quit. I did karate. I quit. I did band. I quit. I did a lot of things. Um, you know, even my academia. Like I did the bare minimum, and so athletic, I wasn't attractive and athletically. Um, academically, no. Talent wise with music or anything, no. Even height. That was big. That was a big thing for me. Um, but as I grew from high school and into my college years, um, a lot of trial and error of going back and forth. What do girls like? What do they not like? What is it that I'm looking for? Signals and between one another. You know, it's it is all in the mind, uh, and effortlessly, and many hours of just thought um, has gone into um, trying to even have someone, a girl, get my attention.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, it was a lot of trial and error, and that definitely played into my adult years.
yeah.
So yeah,
Jeff, how do you think? How does the quote reach with you?
So, like me reading that quote, it's the difference of lust and love.
Okay.
So with the eyes, like yes, there's the physical attraction, but yes, physical attraction is a portion of a relationship. Like if you're gonna be with someone, you at least have to find them visually appealing.
Right, that's true.
And that's subjective to everybody. Someone that I might find, beautiful and attractive, one of you may not. Like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but
Mm,
when it comes to the mind, that's where like the love comes in because you form that connection and those bonds with that person, and that's where that really starts to grow because like you can find physical attraction almost anywhere,
mm,
but to find someone that you can have that mind connection with and that like to grow on that level, that's what turns into love, which is what I eventually found with my wife. Like we just
yeah.
connected on so many different levels, and easiest way to say it is loving her was easy.
Mm,
Like there was
yeah,
that physical attraction at first that drew me to her, but then the more we hung out, the more we talked, the more we got to know each other. Like I knew very early on, I was like, this is someone I could see myself being with.
yeah,
But there were many failed attempts before that.
yeah. And I think the failed attempts are probably they're probably my favorite, uh, because after many years of trial and error, I found a lot of things of what I learned so much um, by having those standards so low for myself. And uh, yeah, I made it a game to really find who is my next, like who would be my next person. um yeah, and for me it was more like, all right, it's not just like, I don't want just a cheerleader. I want the captain of the cheer team. Like that's where I started aiming. I didn't want, uh when I was in my fraternity, I didn't want just a sorority girl. I wanted the president. I aimed high. And it when I was doing that, I started learning that, um yeah, out of what I've learned is, you every girl that's out there, they get treated the exact same way every time, right? And to me, I had to ask myself sometimes, it's like, what is what would make me different? What would make me notice? You know, do I need to buy her things? Do I need to show her, like, do I need to hand out flowers? Do I need to make a fool out of myself? And to me, since those are my first thoughts, it always was the same thing that they were probably approached by. So, um,
would you call those relationships you came out with like, oh, I'm gonna play this game, I'm gonna reach for the highest, go for the captains and stuff like that, and then when you got them and you dated them, would you have called that love?
no.
Yeah.
To me, you know what? It is hard because I aim for those girls because I thought they had the characteristics that I wanted.
Mm,
And that's why I aim so high. Because to me, and to all. Ultimately, at the end, everybody wants what's a huge attraction to everybody is ambition, right? If you have ambition, I mean, you can mostly see the times when sometimes when you're out in public and you see this fitted woman and all of a sudden she's with a man who's severely overweight, right?
Sure.
and and vice versa. And sometimes you're like, what the heck? And people are like, oh, he has money, or they always go to all those things, but it's not that. And it's mostly ambition.
Which is part of the mind, right? It's all internal rather than the external.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Because one of my exes, um, she was very beautiful, and I thought I was in love. You know, um, she was a bartender, and I was just a busser. And the fact that she had noticed me, I was like, "Whoa, that's cool!" Like, I'm just bussing tables. She had all the attention, and all the guys were wooing her, but she'd pick me. And to me, I was like, "Wow, you know what? This is it. Like, this is pretty cool. She'd probably be the one." But as I later realized, many years later, she had no ambition.
Mm,
So I was blinded by the looks and everything, and
right.
so I was visually attracted to her. I was visually seeing the eye candy of like, oh, everybody's checking her out, but she's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's pretending to flirt with them, but she's actually coming home to me. Like all of that was flooding in my mind.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, um, it became very standstill.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I felt like I was trying to move in my life, and it seemed like she wasn't.
Right.
Ultimately, at the end, she ended up cheating on me,
Mm,
so that was really rough.
right.
Um, and that again was like, is it me? What happened? What did I do? And it comes out to be, yeah, very, very simple things that I did not see in the beginning.
Right. And that's good. That's kind of what I was thinking when you were telling your story was like what Jeff said. Like he made a lot of mistakes. You made a lot. We all made a lot of mistakes, and you learn from it. And I think I saw one quote one time was like, they said love is not about finding who you're good with because that's the easy part. It's love is finding out who you don't like. You don't what you don't want. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. All right, we're gonna cut this. The quote I found was love is not about finding who you want. Love is about knowing what you don't want.
Yeah,
So like y'all saying I've messed up a whole bunch growing up and with dating and everything. It makes sense. And then you come to find your true love now, right? With Cass, with Sienna, and then me with Mia, right?
yeah, and I agree with you 100% because up until that relationship, I was loyal. Yeah, I was um, in between. I was very bouncing between girls and all that, but I never had a label on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I had my girlfriends, I was locked and loaded. Like I was ready, right? And I was loyal to them. After my ex, that did not. It just kind of like drilled a hole in me
With the loyalty, or what do you mean?
with the loyalty. Yeah. After that, I was not loyal. It
When was
was
this? How long ago would this be?
so. This was before my wife.
Right before.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what hurt me the most is that what's it called with before my wife she um so after I had broken up with um my ex,
Mm-hmm.
I had gone with my wife. We were working the same, right? And to me, I had built this whole thing of I I was so loyal to this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and in every way, and just threw away like trash.
Right, got destroyed. Yeah.
So to me, I built this whole like, I need a backup, or I don't really know if, you know, the next girls I'm gonna talk to are gonna be secure for me, and uh, yeah, it was really rough because in the dating scene with my wife currently, it was very easy because at the very beginning we had gone through the same thing, right? She was in a toxic relationship, I was in a toxic relationship, so we were able to talk about that stuff um, very openly. And you know, once we broke it off with each other's exes, we talked, we hung out, and we did start out as friends. And um, I hate that I was also talking to other women at the same time
Mm.
because my wife, she's she was giving me all the undivided attention. She made me feel like I was listened
Mm-hmm.
every time, right? So with her, um, it was I was actually a she was my manager, and so there goes that whole hierarchy thing that I was talking about. You know, I'm not dating a waitress. I'm not dating a or you know somebody like equal to me. It was the manager, and so it was fun. She didn't treat me any differently, which was awesome. But what's it called? Whenever we hit it off, it was definitely a different atmosphere that I had wished would have been saved um, for her, the loyalty part.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
What? Where was that stemming from? The kind of the disloyalty. Was it coming from like you wanted to be spiteful because of how you were treated, or was it out of like anger? Was it out of like what was the or you like protecting this like defense in case like what where was that stemming from?
Um, I feel, to be honest, it was more of like I was reverting back to my old ways of pushing boundaries.
Mm.
Um, to me, I at the time I was not treating my, you know, I didn't realize she was going to be my wife at that time.
Sure.
Um, I do know she was going to be something, but at the same time, I also was pushing those boundaries of, you know, who else can I talk to at the same time, and you know, is this really gonna? She will never know, like type of things,
Mm-hmm.
that whole cheating atmosphere. Well, we ended up getting together, and it wasn't until I had realized that, um, you know, she was good to me, and I was like, you know what, this is good, right?
Good.
This is good. She is like she's different, um, and I ended up bringing those um, old habits into this relationship, right? So that was something that did destroy me, and that's where I was saying like all the past and all of that that's happened in the back, in the past, really played my ups and downs because not subconsciously, because that would be a lie. When I grew up having to subconsciously kind of like, there we go, kind of, um, what's it called? Contradicting myself. Well, I would catch myself using the tools that I would get back in my college years, back in my earlier years when I was out in public,
Mm-hmm.
or at work, right? So, um, you know, one of the things I have is, which works very well, is I have the three look rule. You know, if you look at somebody for more than three times at least, um, they are attracted to you.
Okay. Nice.
So Yeah, and so whenever I would see someone making eye contact with me, and I make eye contact with them more than once, or more than three times at least, I would approach and say, "Hey," and just say, "What's up?"
Yeah.
And so, um, after my ex, I I definitely didn't take my next relationship serious because in my previous relationship, and I think this is where the major part was, is that I made a huge sacrifice for my ex. Um, my ex, which uh, I should just refer to her as Virtue. There you go. So my ex Virtue, ended up moving into her, moving in with her, which was a big deal with me, right?
That's a big deal. Period.
Exactly.
It's a
To
big
her, it
step
was
to
not.
take.
Yeah. So to her, it was not. And moving in with her, I, signed in. We bought a car together. We did a lot of, I guess, like marital or premarital, you know, uh, what's it called? Tasks or um, what is it called? Objectives. We did apartments together. We did cars together. We did, we were pulling out loans together. We were doing a lot of like signing up for things back and forth, and it was just a lot of things that to me was waiting for my wife, right? And to her, for me, to Virtue, I thought she was going to be my wife,
Hmm.
right? So um what ended up happening was, when I found out she cheated on me, which was first in first person, I found out. I think that is what uh, shifted my mind of, if I gave my all to this girl, to someone who I thought was the one who I was in love with, and turn around and treat you that way, to me it was, I don't think someone else doesn't deserve it, or is probably going to treat me the same way.
Right. It's like I guess it comes from the fantasy. I've seen the uh, let's say the correlation of like people that have grown up with the fantasies and like the saving the damsel in distress, or and people read the books, the romance books, and
Mm-hmm.
watching those movies, and they feel like, oh, they gives them this like, oh, if I follow this formula, if I do everything I can, like love prevails all, right? Love trumps all, and all these quotes you can find, and it should work out as the movie. You get the happily ever after, but in real life, most people find out the hard way that's not the case.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely 100%. And that was tough. And so, fast forwarding it, um, when I was dating my wife, um, I I took her love for granted many times, um, and it sucks because she would catch me, you know, on the social media talking to other girls, and not even from my phone, other girls would tell her, and that's what sucked the most. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I do know why, because she loves me. But after, it took literally, um, just her, about to leave, um, and realizing like, hey, we're gonna be a family. Like, you know, this was, she was pregnant at the time. She's like, we're gonna be a family, and it just, it hit me. Do I want to be a father that is unfaithful to his mother, and all this stuff, and I've seen it. Um, I've seen it happen. I've seen, single parents and all this stuff, and I didn't want to be that. I grew up very, um, religious, and I grew up with that mindset of like, all right, you're gonna say yes to this woman, and if you are gonna marry her, you must, like, you stick with her because you want to, not because you need to, right? So she, out of all that, I mean, I don't know what goes on in that woman's head sometimes, but man, I cannot read it. But she stuck with me.
Yeah.
She stuck with me, and uh, referring back to her mom, like not understanding that woman. Um, my wife was very different from all the girls that I had ever, I want to say, try to like play games with, or it is seduction, like to seduce, and she was different. I could not, anything in my power, like all my book, all my tricks, up my playbook, whatever it was in my mind, did not work with her. The whole every time it was, I was, I would do something wrong, like just something simple, like I would forget something, or um, I'd say something out of the norm that she didn't like. I would play the whole like defense mechanism and like, all right, I know what to say exactly to make her, uh, want, forgive me immediately, or oh honey, it's okay. Like, no, everything I did for 25, well, for almost, yeah, like 10 years worth of of just playbook stuff. Wooing girls and playing mind tricks with them. It did not work on my wife. And
She's
that
just
was
smarter.
my it was my favorite thing. And it was my favorite thing because um when you find your partner, man, it is different. It is it's like a whole new world, and it is different. Um yeah. So um now uh I I I very I'm at the point now in my marriage. I married my wife, and I am loyal to her now, and I strive every day to be loyal to her, and that's because I don't want to say that I will, because that's an absolute. And to me, as a person who's gone through so much in the past, um, with insecurity, with competition, with cheating, and um, on both ends, I I am constantly in that mode of I don't want to revert back. I don't want to go back because I have something good, someone good, and my wife. Uh, we kind of I play a joke with it. She is very light with it. She's but my little playbook, my tips and tricks is of of you know of a partner, or finding partners, or being with girls, or whatever. It's like a, I guess, like a superpower, and it can be used for good. You can find someone very. You can find someone. You can find the person of your dreams. Um, and but you can also destroy the person that you're in love with, and you can also yeah, and destroy relationships. So like I said, every day I try very hard um, to to remain loyal to my wife, and um, day to day, when there's an attractive woman, and I see at HEB, she's wearing a sports bra and leggings, and everyone's turning their heads and I'm turning my head. um, I use you know escape, like mental mind tricks, coping skills to I touch her, I look, and to be honest, at this point, and I think um, it's hard to hear, but I am very brutally honest with my wife about what I think. Um, if there's a woman, and I mean, this said woman at the grocery store saying, you know, I will right after say, "Hey, honey, I had a hard time." That you probably notice, and women they notice when you're, they always notice. So um, I would be I tell her I'm like, hey, honey, that woman in the spandex and the sports bra, I had a hard time. Sometimes she'd be like, yeah, I know, it's okay.
Why do you feel the need that you have to be honest about that? Like, I don't see the point.
So to me, um, I have honesty in my relationship has not has not always been a huge factor from my past.
Say it again. Honesty has not been a huge factor in your past. What with dating, with relationships? Like, what does that mean?
With relationships, yeah, with
Like, it wasn't important, or
it wasn't something that I was always 100% um, honed in on. Like I didn't do it.
okay,
You know,
yeah,
um, with my exes, yeah, I was loyal, but at the same time, I did have those thoughts of like, this person could, oh, she's really pretty. What if I had talked to her? I'm like, what if I talked to her? What if, or I'm having a really bad day today. Uh, you know, my wife, or, my girlfriend, she's being a bitch today. Like, those thoughts were in my past.
yes,
And obviously, I had those skills of like, okay, I'm in a relationship. I can't think like that, or I have what is good,
mm,
right? So after my breakup with Virtue, I still had all that. I brought all of that to this relationship.
okay. But I don't see the like what good did it do when you tell her like, hey, I was lusting over that other girl? What does that do for the relationship?
For the relationship, it allows that I am being honest about my thoughts.
Okay,
So my thoughts, right, can create a trigger or an urge,
okay,
right? So if I have a guilty thought,
yeah,
I'm going to linger with it. And I'll have that linger. And that guilty thought of me checking out another woman can lead into, ah, I checked out that woman. It's fine. Sienna, or yeah, Sienna didn't notice. My wife, she didn't notice. Okay, right. And though the next time, what if it's an employee, right? An employee at the grocery store, and I'm like, oh, okay, I check her out. I'm cool, whatever. Now I go again, but without my wife. I pick up a conversation because I still have those thoughts.
mm,
And those thoughts become from, okay, how are those boundaries eventually going to be pushed?
So
Right?
for you personally, it's almost like a slippery slope.
Correct. Now that's just me,
right.
right? Now this is because I mean, everyone hopefully loves their wives, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Now I love my wife, um, but from me coming from a person who's um, been in the realm of manipulation and seduction and all that stuff, this is where my topic of of how do I say this? This is where my topic of finding or mitigating, I guess that's what I say, mitigating deviant thoughts comes into action.
Mm,
So you're right, Vin. You're looking. I can see by your like expression. You're like, why would you tell like
no, I'm asking. Well, because the thing is, I'm not you, right? I don't have the same
correct?
experience as you, so I'm asking out of like curiosity of like, what good does it do for in your relationship? Like, because I couldn't relate. I would never tell. I don't need to tell Mia like, hey, I lusted over this girl, because my mantra would be, well, as most people would say is, you can like you can, of course you're gonna find other people good looking, but it's your self restraint and I don't know, there's like morality or ethics of like I'm not gonna act upon those thoughts.
It's the whole
Correct.
look, don't touch.
Right.
Yeah. And so for me, I went through all that and it didn't work.
What do you mean you went through all that and didn't
I
work?
went through
With
what
virtue?
with the virtue of, or I'm sorry, no, no, no. So you know how you said, I believe Jeff said it. You just said, what did you say right now? You
Look,
said,
Look,
don't
don't
touch.
touch.
look, don't touch, right? That's not enough for me anymore. It wasn't enough for me anymore, right? After virtue, after I had broken up with her, my boundaries had, I, my mentality had just opened up, right? I knew Sienna was good. I knew my wife was good,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know she is, and she is. But I I ended up wanting to push boundaries again. And in pushing those boundaries, I have learned in my past, I have learned from my past is that I have um I have the problem of the trying to, or I guess pushing those boundaries of like getting attraction from another woman because of what I grew up of. Since I was so young, I wanted to know that, oh, I still got it, or like it's never going to go away. Like all of that has played into my relationship with my wife.
Yeah.
And because of that, I have, with virtue, I did do the look, don't touch. I did that, you know, and it bit me so hard, right? And even with virtue, I did only look and I didn't touch. But there's also things like, just because you're not cheating physically, but if you're cheating emotionally, that's also a thing,
Right.
That's
right?
almost just as bad.
Correct. So yeah, to me, it's very very different in in controlling behavior.
And that's just for you personally. Like,
Correct. Yeah.
obviously, it's not going to
Exactly.
be the same for everyone. Like, for me, I can't relate to that at all. Because, like, using
And
that
that's
same grocery store thing, I'm not the one that's noticed. She noticed and pointed it out to me. It's like, oh, look
and
over
you
there.
know
And I'm
what?
like, I'm like,
And
oh, all right.
and Jeff, that's awesome. And I love that. I love how I love the men out there um that can definitely hold it together, right? And I wish I was that guy again.
Oh, I wasn't always like
And
this.
I am that guy. I wasn't.
He wasn't always like that.
And see, um, and exactly. And to me, in order to mitigate those behaviors, to maintain the relationship that I have with my wife, I need to be honest.
Right.
Because if I'm not honest, I end up going, like you said, Vin, going down that slippery slope. Now, I going back to what my wife said about what's it called, or about us very lightly saying like it's a superpower. Um, yeah, I mean it helps so much with dating. I mean I've helped coworkers, friends with dating advice, and it's it's it has its perks and it has its downs.
So with that superpower, how would you I'm gonna ask you this question. How hard was it for you dating as a guy? Did you feel like it was pretty easy with the superpower, or did you still feel like you had to really put in a lot of effort?
Oh, it's a lot of effort.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between a guy and a girl when they go dating, when they like go out trying to find a partner or find anything? You think there's a difference, or it's pretty much the same?
Oh, this is where the fun topics start. Okay, so say that again.
Do you think there's a difference in dating between a man and a woman when you go out, like for example, you go meet see that girl? Do you think she can just do she just needs to do the exact same amount of effort that you do, right? You have to use all this superpower, you have to do all this strategy, all these thinking. Do you think she has to do equal or more or less effort, or like
That is a
is it easier?
loaded question, Vin, that can go either way.
So for me,
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm asking him personally, right? Because he has the superpower. I don't know if it's like if
maybe I shouldn't call it superpower. Maybe I
okay,
should say, uh, I call it a trick. There you go. It's a
okay,
trick. I got a skill, a mastered skill. There you go. So this skill that I got. So I love that question, and man, if we're already going on a date, you're saying if should be the I have more effort, or she should do more, equal, or less. Um, so if me, I do all the effort,
mm,
all of it, all of it. I plan exactly where we're gonna go, how we're gonna go, how fast I'm gonna drive the car, how slow the time, you know, um, the like all the way to where we're gonna eat. Like I have it all planned. Like to me, it's all the effort. Now that's because I'm doing everything. Now,
do you feel like it's a necessity to get that girl to put in all that effort, or do you feel like if you put in zero effort, you would still get girls?
if I put in zero effort, you would get no girls.
Right.
100%. Yeah, no. If you put 0%, you'd get no girls.
Right. And would it be the same on like the female side? Do you think they also have to put in like could they put in zero effort and get guys, or they still also need to put in as much effort as you do?
Oh man, I have this strong belief. You can. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like what the goal is, right? A girl, there's
Say it out, yeah.
there's there's definitely a category for everything,
Okay.
right? Big, small, whatever color you are, whatever you wear.
Okay.
Girls, they definitely have it a lot easier
A
than we
lot
do.
easier. Okay.
100%.
Jeff, do you
100%.
agree with that?
Like I said, loaded question.
Okay.
So, I'm going to go on a few tangents with this one.
Sure. I,
Go ahead.
So, like Brandon had said, there are definitely categories. There's a category of girls that they could put in zero effort and they're still going to land guys. Now, the thing is what quality of guys are they going to get with that?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, because you have, and I'm going to stem this off of something you had said earlier, Brandon, how you had said, one of your relationships failed because she had no ambitions. So, if you have a girl that's got all the looks but zero drive and zero ambition, she's still going to land guys, and she's not going to have to put in any effort. But she's not going to find those guys that are willing to settle down. The ones that have goals, have ambitions.
Yep.
But there's also the other category of girls who, they may not be by the definition of beauty standard. They're going to have to put in some effort most times. Like, they're still not going to have to put in as much effort as the guys do unless they're the one pursuing.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of loaded, because it really comes down to who's pursuing who.
okay.
So,
Yeah,
like, if I'm pursuing the girl, I'm probably going to be putting in more effort than her. But if the girl is pursuing me, she might put in more effort than I do.
Yeah.
So it really depends on which perspective we're looking at it, who's pursuing who, and what stage they are in their lives. And I love how Brandon brought up the ambitions thing, because that is one thing that really connected me to my wife. And I've brought this up on the podcast before, of like one of the first things that really solidified, me wanting to be with her, besides the physical looks and all that, was the fact that she had so many goals. She knew where she was going in life, and I was like, this girl's got it put together. I need to get my shit together.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely 100% on that, especially because my wife was the exact same way, Jeff. Uh, you know, when I met her, so it ultimately at the end of the day, it's like, what's your goal? Do you want to be a bachelor, or do you want to find somebody? And I have the answers for both of them. I mean, we all kind of know what the answers are.
No, we don't. That's not. It's not. It's not known, right? Nobody's bringing out this guidebook of like, hey, like when like you do this and that, and this is how you get it, right? So it's not really well known because there's on both genders there's chronically lonely people.
There are.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not well known. It's not like ever no we're not born into this world of like, oh yeah, I know how to attract the female like
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the same way where I came. But yeah, you're right because I didn't. I mean, obviously, what you got of what I've told you guys is that I didn't start out knowing everything. It took me so long to understand what what made a woman tick, and I enjoy. Um, I have coworkers who are bachelors, and you know they you know they get nervous. They're like, "Hey, should I do this? Should I do that?" Like, and I love giving them the input because it's something that is very simple that can make a huge difference. Like the three little look thing that I always did to myself, or for a girl, is that you know, and I highly recommend anybody who is looking for somebody or is very nervous to take that first leap is that if you it's very simple, and if you see somebody who uh, if you catch lock eyes with with somebody and they stare at you three times, I mean that fourth time just go and say, hey, I know, and be honest. People love honest, girls love honest men, honest, and that's what sets you apart. Like I said earlier, is that you go up to them and say, hey, I noticed that you stared at me more than, I mean, at least three times. I mean, it's either, you know, you want to fight me or you want to talk to me.
well, let's not, we can't be complete because what if the goal was to just sleep with them, right? You're not gonna go up to them and be like, hey, I wanna f you, like, oh, I wanna sleep with you, I wanna take you to bed, like that's not gonna work.
I mean, it
Well,
might sometimes.
so I love how you say that, Ben, right? Because have you ever tried that?
No, I haven't. So
the,
you're
Okay,
the, the, the
so
sample of where that will work might be small, but the chance is not zero.
hmm, so that's where I want to. That's also so the bachelor version, right? So the guy who is a player, or you're trying to just hook up or whatever, and that's fine. Like go out there and you have your fun, and it's fine. Get your experience, because that's how you learn. You see what you do and you don't want, and it's on your preference. But I've had times where, man, I was in the just going back. I was back at the University of San Antonio, uh, and I was just going back to my apartment, and in the elevator, and uh, there's this girl. I guess she came back from a party. I don't know what, but I was like, "Hey, you're pretty," and she's like, "Oh, thanks." I'm like, "Well, I have nothing to do tonight. I'm really bored. Um, do you want to go back to your place?" And she just said yes. Blew my mind. And it's just things like you being honest is what sets you apart from those other guys that are acting a fool in front of the girl, or a lot of guys talk about simping over them. Like, come on, like these girls, they've heard it. I guarantee you they've heard it all. you know so what sets you apart? Being honest. um you can just say, hey, you know what, do you want to sleep together, right? You can go that route, or you can just be like, hey, all these other guys, they're approaching you the same way, and I'm gonna be honest, me talking to you is probably not gonna make any difference.
I so I obviously I agree to you to a point. Sorry. I agree to you to a point, but don't you think there's a line of like being too creepy about it? Because
Yes.
okay, because I just want to say that because I don't want people out there thinking, okay, yeah, if I just do this, this is gonna work, right?
No.
There's
Well, you
this
gotta read
line
the
of
room.
yeah, exactly,
Like,
like because one thing is you're not an ugly dude. You're not this like creepy or anything like that dude. Like you know how to hold yourself, right? So there's the difference. Like there's a lot of prerequisites before you go do your superpower, which I we actually
He
need you to explain.
rebranded it as a trick.
Okay, you're
A
super
skill.
a super skill. You're super trick.
Mastered skill.
So what is that line of
Okay.
between being creepy and it working? What
I
is that?
so I guess you're right, Vin, because if we move back to if we go back to what's it called? It's not just going out and doing it, right? It's I mean you gotta put yourself I mean you gotta present, right? Um to me, oh man. It's like it's like more scenarios I have to be in to play it out. But I think one thing that's very common is
I would say confidence is the first part.
it is, yeah, confidence. Um, I'm just trying to think of a scenario of that's day to day that a lot of guys have trouble with, and I honestly I'm glad that it's going back to school season because it's college or even at work when you start a new job or even going to work and you're just afraid to say hi or say something to that person. Um, all right. So there's two situations. Is it repetitive? Is this is this an encounter that reoccurs or is this a first time? I think that'll help me out. Um, so if it's a first time encounter, definitely read the room, right? Because if it's a first time encounter, you can I mean, it's the three looks, man. If you look at three looks, because you people are attracted they look at things that are attracted to it's not just with with partners with or but if you see a cute panda like dang you're gonna look at that cute panda it's freaking cute or that car it's really nice like you humans us as humans we're attracted to look at things that we like, right?
So what about in the case of you're not attractive, right?
In the case that you're not attractive, and this is where I'm going to be completely honest, I think you just got to look at yourself in the mirror. I think you got to, yeah, because um, if you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I mean, nobody likes me, or, you know, why does anybody talk to me, or, all this stuff, like, I'm gonna be really honest. I think you just need to get your ass up and you need to go to the gym have that ambition to do something and the ambition of yeah you're you're either I don't know either you're not clean cut or the way you dress like if if you can go up to a woman and just ask her you're gonna be honest like that's where I learned most of the time is just being completely honest with somebody who cuts your hair, your hairstylist, your or your barber or whoever, like, and just say, hey, like, one trick that I would do all the time is, hey, I trust you. You do this all the time. Make me look good. You know, to my to whoever's cutting my hair. I trust them to, I don't go to a barber, but the women that do cut my hair, they're definitely not going to send you out there looking like, you know, crap. So,
I mean, they might.
if
If you keep
you don't
going
leave
back
a
to the
good,
same one, and let's
yeah,
say
you
you
don't leave
did
a
you
good
did
tip,
you didn't
definitely.
tip her, and then you come back and she's like, "Hey, this asshole gave me a $2 tip last time."
Yeah. Um,
But I think that what comes down to, like you said, look in the mirror and be like, hey, I can do this. That's confidence,
yeah,
right?
and it's that, yeah, confidence, that willpower to just be like, you know what, today's the day I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm gonna get up, or today's the day I'm gonna work on my car. And when you start building those confident skills of just looking in the mirror and telling yourself like I'm gonna do this today, um, that ambition is gonna show some like subconsciously to women, right? Women love a person who is passionate about something. I mean, you can be, I mean, you can be really good at, or you can be terrible at something, right? But you can be really good at collecting cards, right? Just something simple like that. And you show ambition and you know that is your heart and soul into that. And when you meet somebody, right? And to her, it's going to be like, oh, this is just a stupid card thing to him, right? Whatever. But then you're like, hey, no, I'm actually good at this stuff. I know what this is. I know what card this is, what edition. You know, like other people are collecting this and that. Like maybe to some women, they won't like that, right? Because they have everybody has,
They're
you
gonna
know,
call you a nerd.
preference. But there's gonna be that girl that's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like yeah, okay, he's kind of goofy and he does work here, but I mean, he loves cards. And that goes back to finding someone that's right for you. They will always help you. They will always encourage that, right? So if you just have some sort of passion for something, um, women will see that. Um,
So is this your super skill? Is it about like bringing confidence out and then being able to go out and approach women? So what is this super skill you keep referencing?
um, it's very sad. I mean, I don't want to say sad, but it's a very heavy thing to say, but it's definitely manipulation.
I
Like
wouldn't
heavy.
call it manipulation. Honestly,
Well,
like in
well,
the
yeah.
time we've been sitting here talking, it's your confidence. You have a confidence about you, and confidence is one of the most attractive thing to people.
Well, we don't know what it is actually specifically yet, Jeff. So before we, tone it down, let's see what it actually is.
Well, the reason why is because it goes back to what Vince said that if you're at a dinner and you're at a date. I mean, who's who's putting the effort, right? To me, I know what's gonna happen,
Okay.
right? So my power or skill that I have, I know the outcome, right? Because I've been in so many situations that whatever responses are going to happen, I know what to say next. I know what to do next. I know when to back off. I know when to I know when to do what. So that's why it's very scary to put that word out there because it is manipulation at the end of the day. It's a dance, right? But it's not a dance when, you know, you've been looking at choreography, um, or you've been looking at the choreography for 10 years straight, so you obviously know the choreography better than the person that you're sitting across from. So um, yeah, that's why I call it that. But i think I think like you said, Jeff, I think it's either confidence is probably the good side and manipulation is the bad side.
What do you think now after hearing that?
Little column A, little column B.
Yeah. Yeah. Um So super skill is like it's pretty much like you're thinking of dating as like a game, right? It has all these options you could do. That you pick option A, they react in a certain way. You have a next set of options. You know what you can do, and you know exactly like I want to reach this end goal of whatever you want with that girl, and
Yeah,
you know every single option to pick to get that result.
correct. I've One of the examples was probably okay. Uh, oh, this was a good one. Um, back back in my early college years, I got invited into a party bus, right? And I was with the sorority, and there was this girl who I had really wanted to talk to, but I had no reason to talk to her. I had no reason because, um, what's it called? I mean, it was one of those situations like, how can I stand myself out, right? So I had to somehow make my way in, right? So it didn't start with her. I actually got invited to the party bus, right? And in the party bus, everybody was talking about, everybody was having a good time and this and that. And um, sometimes they say, like, it's always a friend of a friend, right? So whenever I had a goal to talk to somebody, um, you know, I kind of wanted to stand out and grab their attention. It, at times, I would go for their um, their friends, their sorority sisters, the 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 dancers on the squad team, and all this stuff. Like, not the captains, but the dancers, right? And I wouldn't sleep with them. That's one thing I enjoyed, that I was very different about my fraternity. And I didn't understand why girls talk, So I didn't understand why the guys would want to always, you know, sleep with the first person that they, made in contact with. And maybe because you're like, maybe it was their first time ever. Maybe it was their
But if that
chance.
was the goal, why wouldn't they sleep with them?
Correct. Because girls talk, and then after that, you're blacklisted. Is what I.
I thought about frat and sorority
Oh no,
life.
that's definitely how it is in the fraternity and sorority world.
So
Like,
that's how I learned, right? So for me, it was like, okay, how did I don't want to I don't want to get blacklisted, right? So my end goal would be, this girl, right? Girl A. So I had to go through girl, you know, B, C, D, E, to get to her. Um, so what I would do is, I would befriend you know, the other girls, and um, you just treat them like friends. You treat them like friends. You try to, if you give a girl a little bit too much attention, they get hooked on, and then other girls end up talking to other girls, and then eventually it reaches to them. Like, you always had to have that in mind. Like, what if it reached to her, right? Oh, hey, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I heard you were talking to, Janet at the on the party bus. Like, you're that guy. Like, didn't you guys kiss or whatever? Or you made out, or did you sleep with her? And, like, boom, it's over, right? Because you can either, two things can happen. You can either be like, yep, that's me, and there's a high rate that she's gonna no longer be interested, or she will be interested and she doesn't care, right? In my experience, it's most likely the first one. So when doing that, you end up setting your friends. You become friends with those friends, right? With her, sorority friends or whatever, and then um, you make yourself known to, you know, they become social. People start hanging out with one another, and eventually, um, you're eventually gonna lock eyes or even be in the same room as the person that you're aiming towards, right? Now, this can take, you know, it can take a, it could take a week, it could take months, and to me, every day, week, and month would bring me to that person.
Hmm.
And um, I think that's where I get the whole, like, I'm constantly, it's just a huge, it's a huge dance. It's a huge trial and error. Like, your end goal is that, and you gotta play your mind tricks. You gotta say yes to what you, I mean, honestly, you have to say yes to things that are like, oh, do you want to hang out today? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. It takes a lot longer to get to that person, but it eventually does happen. Um, and the best part about this is that end person could also be like your future person, right? So to me, I was always saying, like, I don't want just a cheerleader. I want the cheer captain, right? So in entering into um the social circle of her, her cheerleaders, you're introducing yourself, you're getting to know everybody, you're getting to know probably that cheer captain um from a third person, right? And you're also starting to slowly make your way into their eyes, right? That you've planned out, or that I've planned out months ahead, right? And that's where I was always having the goal of like, what if that cheer captain or that person, that manager or whoever is going to be my person. So I always had that, and I think that was my motivation behind all my skill, is that I was always constantly like, all right, that person's eventually gonna talk to me, and then when I do talk to that person, I get to know actually what's going on.
Mm.
Yeah. um and yeah, it is confidence. um it's a lot. um but I'm a high believer on the whole passion and ambitious thing, um for a person, because yeah, it's fun.
It's funny because so my style would be it's our medium is exact same, right? You said, oh, if you be friends with them, it goes a long way. Like they feel comfortable, they do this, and then they feel like they can open up to you, and then you can get. That's how you open the door in,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have the exact same medium, but you use your super skill of like, oh, I can manipulate the conversation, manipulate their ideas to want to be with me, whereas I do the opposite, right? I am generally like pretty much I friend zone myself, right? I
Mm-hmm.
purposely just I am completely their friend. I focus on myself, and they're like, oh, okay, he got in contact with me. I thought this was gonna go some way, but he's not. So it's more you're more of like the push, right? You go into it and you
Yeah,
do where I'm the pull, where I back off.
the friend zone is me and the friend zone have battled it off many times, and it sucks, man. I hate the friend zone. Um, and that's that was a part of the whole self-esteem thing of growing up, is that, man, why are these girls friend zoning me? Like, of course, man, I gotta compete with like 6 foot something guys. I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a good day, and like, um, yeah, it's hard. Friend zone, that's where I think, yeah, the friend zone is a tough spot because,
But
go
ironically,
ahead.
that's what made me shine. Was it was like, oh, this guy doesn't want to get in my pants. Oh, this guy is not trying to use a pickle. And that's literally me as the testimony that she'll bring it up next week. But she had said, oh, Vin didn't ask for my number. I literally asked her. I was like, hey, are you going to the work? She wasn't. I'll more context later. But it was like a work party, and I was like, are you going to the work party tomorrow? And she said, well, I guess in her head she's like, I guess I am. And then that was it. I was like, cool, I'll see you tomorrow. And I left. I didn't even get her number.
Oh, 100%.
Cool, see you there.
So
Yeah.
that's a perfect example, right? I love how you brought this up, because Mia didn't give you, I mean, she had the impression, or whatever she had thought, is what I hope to hear is, you know, all these cute guys are always asking for my number, right?
Right.
What makes you apart? That's the whole thing that I learned, like I told you, is you didn't ask for her number.
Right.
That sets you apart already from Mia, right? So that sets you apart in a unique way from Mia.
Okay.
So to her, that was her attractiveness to you,
Right.
right? So the friend zone, that's not you. You didn't friend zone yourself there.
Why
You
not?
were just being a friend.
That
You were
is it,
just
but isn't that in the friend? I'm in the friend zone.
No, friend
No,
zone is
friend zone
when,
is you have zero chance ever.
yeah, you
Like
do
Okay.
not.
I will never look at you in that way. You are
Correct.
just a friend.
Okay.
Correct.
Because for me, I'm like, okay, so maybe they don't have an attraction to me, but I'm just their friend. I hang out with them, and like they become attracted to me through. If they weren't initially attracted to me, they become attracted through spending time with me.
That's
Yeah.
just
No.
friendship. That's not
Yeah.
friend
That's
zone.
just
That's
friend.
friendship.
Okay.
um, yeah, you're just an attractive guy, I guess. So, um, with that being said, you're actually playing the role that is to find somebody ideal. And that's, I mean, when I would go to these sorority parties, these cheerleader parties, or these frat parties that I mean, we would host, you know, I would, or the club was a perfect example, right? I would be, I love to dance. So I would always be dancing and all this stuff, right? And then you see some girl, you know, she's doing her thing, right? And I'm just dancing, right? And you accidentally, it's crowded, you bump into her, and you'd get a lot of like looks, right? You'd be like a disgust look from her, right? So it'd always be like a, ugh, right? Like had, like she has the impression of like you're already hitting on her, right? But I'm just doing my thing. I'm just dancing. I'm whatever. This girl's probably getting hit on all the time. She has this whole like persona of like any guy who touches me is trying to hit on me, right? No, I'm just doing my thing, right? And then when you are honest, as I am sometimes, um, sometimes I actually not sometimes. Most of the time, when you get that look, it's it's sometimes a reality check to give to a woman, right? You're to me, I'm speaking to them internally and I'm like, you are always being hit on all the time. That you have guys that are creepy or you're just very picky of who you say yes to, that you created this persona of like disgust whenever somebody tries to make an encounter with you. To me, I straight up say out loud, girl, nobody's trying to hit on you right now. And a lot will think that there will be a retaliation, but I have never had in the past a woman say something mean after that. Their facial expression will always change to like a shock or like from a disgust look to a okay, like a reality check, right? So to them, I have just initiated and I have just declared like, I mean, you're not the shit, right? I just lowered you to who I am, right? And sometimes later, if we're in the same group or we end up hanging out in the same group, um, because I initially have seen that that woman has portrayed disgust and, like I said, is most likely being hit on all the time, I will ignore that person all day and prove to her that I am more interesting than she is by talking to every other person. And every time she brings something up that everybody acknowledges, you do not acknowledge. And that is what gets me to talk to her eventually, or not talk to her. And it allows her to open up in a more, I guess, an approach that she's not used to. Either the same night, or if we end up having friends, mutual friends, you know, we end up hanging out later and I end up knowing more things about her in a more intimate level.
When so you're talking through these, you're using your super skill, right? You're going through these like, okay, what is gonna make her tick, make her be like, I am so interested in you. We things we need to do something, right? Um, do you feel like you're yourself? Do you feel this is like genuinely who you are, right? Because my tactic is it's to escape that. Because I was similar to you. I was trying to like for a long time. I was like, how can I get this girl? What can I do? Like I'm looking up like strategies or whatever. And like, okay, maybe I can do some manipulation. I didn't think that far of like manipulation, but I was like, how do I do this? And at some point, I realized I wasn't being true to who I am, right? And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm so focused on trying to pull a girl that it like I'm not Vin. So then I and I switched it over and like I said, I I thought I was friend zoning myself. I was just being friends with them, but I didn't give them the time of day. So our it seems like our results exactly the same of like you ignore them, whereas I just don't show interest. And they both are like, oh, Brandon, why is he not giving me showing me interest? And then there's like, oh, Vin, does he not find me attractive? Or like, what's going on in his brain? Why is he so focused on working or doing his thing that they levitate towards us? But for me, I'm being myself. Right? I'm focused on myself and what I want to do. And so, question for you is: do you feel like you're true to yourself when you're doing your super skill?
Um, I think
If you
it's
say yes, I'm gonna call you a liar.
Oh,
do I feel true to myself?
yeah. Do you feel like that? I'm being Brandon Dominguez right now. I am like this is genuinely who I am when I'm using my super skill.
Um, well, now that you said it,
The threat from Jeff.
uh, am I being myself?
This is the
he wants to
true.
say yes.
It's like whenever the gloves come off and you're like about to do something really cool, right?
Okay.
I feel like that's what I feel like it's a flip of a switch. Um, so, I mean, you guys are making it sound like it's another person. Um,
I'm asking. No, I'm. That's my question. Was I'm just asking you. Do you feel like, oh, this is who I am. This is a part of me. This is true. Like I.
ah,
This is who. Yeah. This is me.
so yes, I do want to say this is me, Jeff, because actually, I want you to chime in. I would love to hear why or what your thoughts.
Just it's just the way you've been explaining all of it. Like it almost seems like you become a different person. Like you're almost in hunter mode, and you've got your prey in your sights.
Yeah, that's um, it is scary. Yeah, um, it's it's sometimes intimidating what I can do, and that's why again with my wife she knows all about this, and that's why it's something that I have to on the other end I have to be so honest. Um, when I do flip this switch, um, or when I did, or when I do, because it can be used for good, right? I can give some advice to my family, my cousins or friends, coworkers. I can give them advice or wisdom. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it feels like yeah, like just all right. It's when someone's about to do something really badass and they're like, all right, hold my beer real quick. Like, I got you. Like, so to go back to your thing, Vin, I like how you said, you know, for you with that whole like bumping into the girl situation and ignoring, um, I'm not ignoring.
I'm just using your words.
Oh, okay.
You've
I'm
literally
sorry.
said ignoring.
Yeah, I did say ignoring. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I am ignoring. I'm sorry. I should have said that.
You don't have to apologize. I'm just saying. I'm just going off of what you're saying.
So I'm I'm also that game thing is like I'm also trying to prove a point to this person
What is it? What point?
that she has set herself so high that I mean, I just experienced firsthand. I bump into you and you automatically are thinking that I'm hitting on you.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've taken on the task of all right, game on. You think you're that much higher than me? You have no idea, right? So that's where I start going, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and going down the line.
It's hilarious hearing you talk because it's like the opposite of me, right? Like I said, the same medium of like, oh, you figured out, okay, if I use it as a friendship as the medium, but then use my super skill set, it goes into your way. And so just hearing you talk of like, oh, now it's a game because she feels like she's on this this pedestal, this level, and I need to break her down and show her like I'm up there as well. For me, it's the complete opposite. For me, it's like, hey, like I guess you nailed it on the head. Was I ended up I was like I'm looking for the right person. So it's like if we work out through friendship, through me being quote unquote friend zoning myself, just being friends with her, then we work out. Right. I leave it up to more fate rather than trying to um, force the situation happening. Um, so I find it really interesting.
Oh, by all means, I love input. This is, I mean, I've spent my whole life on this, um, and
because the thing is, me too, right? Our that's what I'm trying to say. Our experiences and how we went through dating is very similar, but our tools became the opposite of each other. You're like, I need to beat this game, whereas I'm like, I'm trying to find the right person, so I need to let it be natural. So it's
that's good
yeah.
because exactly how you are acting natural is honestly how you find somebody. Because at the end of the day, I mean, like I keep, re- restating is like it's what your goal is. To me, if I am a bachelor and I want to, uh, you know, be with this girl who has put herself on, like you said, like a pedestal, and I want her to, you know, come down and be like, you know what, like Brandon, am good enough for you, then that's my goal.
Mm.
Um, if I just want to sleep with somebody, then yeah, we can go ahead and just, I mean, just be completely honest, be upfront. I mean, that's basically what the tone is. And then for finding someone that's very special for you, um, at, when I found my wife, I was myself. I was myself, and I want to say my wife. When I found my girlfriend, I was not myself. Because I told you guys, I carried that super skill, um, of pushing those boundaries into my relationship, um, and so with that, um, my wife kind of got hints from other people, sadly from work. Um, at work after I had left, they were like, "Oh yeah, um, you know, Brandon was hitting on me. Brandon was that. Brandon was that," and it felt ugly. And it was like, "Oh," and she told me, and she actually, it sucked. She actually had the phone on speak, or she had me on the phone asking about like people talking about me, and they're like
Right.
just telling her as my girlfriend at the time. And that was just like super embarrassing. I'm like, holy, like snap, that sounds so terrible. um it's not until I was my 100% self, um that I found my wife found, like, I can declare my wife like my wife, right? And I say that that's fair to her,
Right.
because she knew my ugly side. She knew all the good side, and she definitely stayed around after all this. Um, and to you guys, it's like you say, Jeff. Like it's like I felt like I was constantly looking for prey and stuff like that, or like stalking it, or and to my wife, it needs to be, that's how extreme it was back then. So now, and I think that's why it's so different, right? People get their minds blown when they uh, hear how honest and open I am with my wife, about my thoughts and my thinking and all that. Um, and that's because in order to be in my healthy relationship with my wife. And I respect any guy out there who is, you know, just super loyal to the wife, and I applaud to them to continue that job all the time. But to find your person, you definitely is just being yourself. My tricks did not work on my wife. at all. Nothing, none of the superpower worked. Every time, you know, every time I was in, I call it the doghouse. When now I call it the doghouse. I was in a shithole back then. Man, I just tried everything and anything to woo her, and nothing. And she just really helped me to mature.
What ended up wooing her then? What ended up like working?
Working.
Well, you obviously got with her in the first place. So how? What was it?
So we both had the toxic relationships, right? And so I was a sushi chef at the time, and she was my manager, and she was really pretty. She was really pretty, and all the guys would, I mean, all the sushi chefs, all the coworkers, they would hit on her, and um, I feel bad, but I did not know she worked there until like she was my manager. Like she was the hostess, and I did not know she was like I knew of her, but I just did not acknowledge her, and I felt really bad. Um, but um, I did some of the superpower skill on her in order to get her attention, um, and it was the whole like, all right, all these guys are hitting on her. What makes me different, right? So I did the whole like. She says I was a she says I was a butt. I know her true words. She doesn't. My wife doesn't cuss, but she says I was a butt. I was definitely an asshole. I was an asshole because I I needed to be different somehow. Um, and every time she'd come up to me, um, I didn't know her. She didn't know me. So I just played little conversations with her. I'd make her food sometimes. Um, and one thing that really sparked her interest, you know, she was talking to all the guys or whatever, going down the line, and she's very modest. She was not a woman who just pursued anybody. Um, and so she came down the line, you know, and she said, I forgot what I was doing. What was I doing? I was going home. I think it was like good luck on the drive home. She mentioned luck, and I'm Catholic, so I immediately just abruptly said I'm Catholic. I don't believe in luck. Just really stern, very, you know. And I saw her. I can remember her face. She was just like shocked, and her eyes opened up. She's like, "Gosh, like that was rude." And I could read that, and I thought nothing of it because at the time uh, I didn't think she was gonna be someone, you know, of me, like to me, you know. Um, at the time, very cynical, but I was just trying to have her under my wing of like getting her attention. Um,
So you went
well,
with be cold.
yeah, yeah. And she'll say all the times that I'm a butt. I was an asshole. Um, and it was not like the whole like you make fun of them. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the approach of the whole like middle school. I call it the middle school flirting. Is when you make fun of somebody in order to get their
They're
attention.
mean to
Uh,
you because they like you.
yeah, I don't believe in that.
Well, I think it's okay. So I believe it's banter, but they executed it incorrectly. I think it's like because banter's supposed to happen when you've established a connection, right? But I think the guys are like, oh, I want to skip establishing connection, just try to pick her up, and so I'm gonna do try to do banter, and it just comes off badly.
Like one thing a lot of people try to do is like, um, oh my god, what terrible parking you have. You know, like, geez, like, what if they really have a hard? You gotta just think about it, man. Like, what if they just really have a hard time parking? And to that girl now feels insecure and they're like, oh, like, God, that guy's really an asshole, right? To me, I was being, I was just a straightforward person. And uh, to my wife, like my wife, we were hanging out. We just hung out. She took me to HEB, and that was our first like hangout. HEB. She bought me a can of beans, and uh, I I was like,
Bought
why
you
did
a
you
can of beans.
a can of beans? Yeah, I told her my favorite are the black kind that you can get at the local HEB in San Antonio, and she bought them for me. And she had them wrapped. She had it wrapped like a gift. She had it wrapped. It was so cute, and I didn't even use the beans. She found out that I'd even use them, and I just like unwrapped it. And I just kept it in my car, and like just like things like that. She saw, I was just like, man, this guy's a butt, like whatever. Um, and so she later down told me after hanging out multiple times, and she ended up telling me that one of the things that she really liked about me was I was very uh, passionate and ambitious about um, what I had said when she said good luck. That I said, I'm Catholic and I don't believe in luck. Um, to her, that struck hard because she has always wanted someone who was strong in their faith. And she said that that she's always wanted to approach that with somebody, and the opportunity never was brought up. So with her, she had told me that that was the initial strike. That was the initial spark for her. And then a week later, she said that me singing in the car to Rihanna, I don't know what it was, but I can sing a lot of songs and whatever songs, but I think it was like Rihanna or Sierra, somebody just like in the early 2000s. I just started singing them, and she said that she really enjoyed that. She really found that very. That's when she fell in love with me. Um,
He is the voice
to
of the angels.
uh, the thing that had me that she wooed me with, um, to this day, it allows me to be as very vulnerable. Um, is that she always I always ask her. People always ask her when was the first time she fell in love with me, and she always says, "Oh, it's the drive-through when Brandon was singing in the car um, at McDonald's, right?" And when people ask me, it's when I was I was talking to Sienna, but we weren't dating at the time. So I had after Virtue, I ended up breaking. I ended up contacting all like the previous girls that I had, had a chance with, and I messed up, right? Or I didn't see it going any further, or I believed that, right? So it was like almost 4 to 5 years later, right? So um, I did get in contact with this girl, my one of my exes before Virtue, um, and Sienna, my wife, had we were. It was a normal shift. It was a busy night. It was like a Saturday night, and I was clocking out and I was ready to get out of there. Right. Um, every night, or she would walk home. She would walk home from the restaurant to her apartment, and from there to there, it's probably like 3 blocks. But in the middle of an ugly part of San Antonio, downtown, she was walking at like 2 a.m. And I had a meetup with. um, one of the girls I had a rekindled with, right? I rekindled with her, and I so Sienna, my wife, had asked, "Are you like, can I get a ride home?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry. Can you get a ride home from someone else?" And she said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that."
That's great. It was raining, right? Wasn't it raining that day?
It was raining, so
You
yeah.
made her walk home in the rain.
So right next to our job was the HEB parking lot, like the grocery store right across the street. So that's where I met up um, with that girl, and she had finished her master's degree. She was working on her PhD. She was making like, and at the time, I mean, I'm 25, 24, and she's like the same age, right? So she was making about 90K, which, at the time is, for that age, is really well. Um, we're talking and we're catching up, and she asks me, you know, why did you end things? And this was back in my college years. She goes, why did you end things, right? And I was brutally honest, and I was like, um, I said, I was gonna give up a lot for you, but you would not do the same for me. Um, and there she was. She was like, I know. I knew that was it. The last time that I had, she had dropped me off at my apartment that night, um, like 5 years ago, or 5 years prior. And she's like, I knew it. I knew that was where I messed up, and I'm sorry. And I would like to revisit things. And to me, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this the breakup with Virtue was perfect. Like, that was supposed to happen. Like, I'm supposed to be here in this parking lot. Like, I'm supposed to be in that moment with her right now. And you know, so she's ready to rekindle things, and it's like 2 a.m. And then I see Sienna across the street walking in the rain. And my, like, when I'm staring at her, it felt like a movie. And today it feels like a movie. Like, anything that that girl was saying in that car at that moment felt like just numb. I didn't care what the hell she was saying. I didn't give a shit. And I'm so strongly about it because there I am looking at someone who constantly gives me her undivided attention, who is walking in the rain, and me not being a gentleman at all, like, didn't give her a ride. I ditched her for to be to try to rekindle with somebody who didn't make me happy before and who thinks is going to happen make me happy later. Like, and I immediately just was like, hey, I gotta go. I got out of my car. By that time, she was already like up 2 blocks, and I rushed home. Like, I, I rushed home. I lived like 45 minutes away, and I rushed home. And from then on, I was like the person who I am in this car with, that person did not matter. The person I love is right there walking in the rain, and that's when I realized that um, I loved her. And so after that is when I went home, and then immediately I was like, hey, like, um, let's go on a date. And so we did, and we hit it off. And what do you know? A couple of years later, we have, you know, 3 beautiful kids, and I'm constantly every day striving to be a better husband than I was the day before. So
Nice.
yeah. Um,
Now,
I
would you say it's difficult to maintain that relationship now? or has it become easier through the years?
So I'm glad you asked that, Jeff, because just yesterday, no, 2 days ago, she she had it is definitely easier. It was hard before because I mean I was hiding shit. I mean, just be honest. I mean, yeah. 2 days ago, she actually had pulled up the web browser history or the password locks, and it was on the laptop. It's linked onto the laptop's linked onto my Google account, which is you know everybody's stuff. It's basically linked onto Google, and she actually said, Snapchat, and I'm like, don't look at me. It's not me. She's like, are you sure? And I was like, honey, on our marriage, I haven't been on that thing since what happened, right? When I was being unfaithful, when I was talking to multiple girls while being in a relationship with her. And she was like, and I told her, it could be, XYZ, I've had that account for many years and all that stuff. And I can read her mind. I can read her a little bit, and she was just like, "Well, actually, I couldn't read her. My powers don't work on her. Um, they really don't." But I just looked at her and I just said, uh, "Hey," because we were about to start Netflix. She started talking again, right? But my wife is that's sometimes she copes that way. She tries to bounce away from things that are, that she doesn't want to pay too much attention to, and so I don't know how or why, but I just one of my skills. I just try to reassure. Right? You have that anxiety or anxious, but as we were about to start the Netflix, like the Netflix show, like 10 minutes later, I paused it and I said, "Hey, I just want you to know, like, I've come a long way because of you. I've come a long way because you have allowed me to be honest in ways that unfortunately how they had happened, um, in ways that allow me to not only be a better person for myself but for us and as a father." And I had told her right after is that any other time with you looking through something of, I mean, a lot of people out there, you know the history of a web browser or anything like that, like whenever you look it up, like, I mean, I'm always sweating bricks. I'm always nervous to see what the outcome is, and then sure enough, I was just very calm at that moment, and um, I was able to. I mean, like you said, I mean, like you asked Jeff, is it easier? It was very easy to be just honest with my wife. Again, my relationship with my wife and how we deal with, you know, things are definitely different between the way Vin does it with Mia and then Jeff with your wife, you and your wife. So it's definitely easier. It should be easy.
Do you feel like there's a difference in roles of like in your relationship? Like there's things that you have to like stand up to, or how do you say it? You have there's roles you have to fill in positions you do that are different from hers. Like, do y'all look at it as y'all are working together as a team, or y'all are equals, or there's an imbalance? Like, how does your relationship look?
Yeah, I think it's just depending on the topic. Um, so, for example, um, financially, um, my wife is hands down and better with money than I am. 100%. When we met, I had no idea she had such extra cash in the background. She walked everywhere. She had no car, nothing, right? And she literally built herself up from the ground up, and that blew my mind. So financially, she she takes all of that hands down. Um, with that role, um, I don't have a money issue, but I definitely, if you are really good with money and that saves me a headache, go ahead. End all be all. I don't care. My wife is really good at it. I don't need that, and she seems to be very good at it. With um the relationship with my wife, and her being my perfect partner, um I feel I am doing a lot more because I am the one who struggles with what I've been talking about for this whole time. My wife is an angel. I sometimes am like, it's okay for you to think that that guy on the TV is hot, or I'm like, I mean, vice versa. At the grocery store, I'm like, dang, that guy has some freaking huge calves. Look at those muscles. Like, that guy is freaking huge, honey. Don't you think? And she's like, yeah. And just polar opposites, right? That's how she is. And with, I don't know, with the kids, oh, she's so good at it. She definitely can. Um, yeah, she definitely handles the kids' upbringing so much nicer than I do. Vocabulary, the way she teaches them how to identify things, what to do, what not to do. So yeah, keeping the relationship, it's definitely. Um, I feel like I do a lot. I do a lot to uh, maintain the. Yeah, I lost myself there.
Yeah, relationship. Yeah, you're maintaining. Um, I want to do like a break here of like we're gonna. So I'm telling myself here, and when I'm gonna edit this is to put this at the end. Do you? I want to kind of skip to your testimony, Jeff, and then we do the motto, because you have to leave in 15 minutes, and then Brandon and I can just continue in, and I'll splice it to where, your testimony and the motto goes at the end.
Sure.
If you want to do that, okay, cool. Um, so I'm gonna skip. So we'll come back to the relationship because he
Yeah,
needs to
go
leave.
ahead.
He needs to leave at
Well, I
7:30.
mean, do
So
you want to like just break the episode here? Because this one's not going to air for a while, and
or you
like
want to come back
finish it
for
at a later date.
I don't care. It's up to you guys.
okay.
I love this. I mean, I can talk about this forever.
Okay, well you can do that, Jeff, if that's cool with you. So you and I will just have to plan. We'll just all three of us have to plan
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
next day. Okay, okay. Okay. Let's break here then. Um,
With a clap, so the
yeah,
audio has a
exactly.
spike.
Yeah. Let me see. So,
I used to do YouTube videos. We're trying.
yeah, for sure. Okay.
I'll go
Okay.
ahead and stop the
Um,
recording